Today, we're going to totally destigmatize that constant struggle you might have with bad habits. We're diving straight into the actual, literal neuroscience of how our brains build and break routines. You know, if you've ever beaten yourself up for lacking self-control or laid awake staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. wondering why on earth that late-night doom-scrolling habit feels impossible to break, well, you're in the exactly right place. Today, we're using the latest neuroscience to completely reframe how you think about your daily behavior and finally take that guilt right out of the equation.
Okay, let's just start with this absolutely staggering number from researcher Wendy Wood, 43%. 43% of everything you do every single day is completely mindless and automatic. I mean, just think about that for a second. Almost half of your day isn't even being consciously directed by you. You're basically just repeating what you did in the past, in the exact same context. It's tying your shoes. It's that commute to work where you suddenly realize, wait, I don't remember the last 3 miles. Or reaching into your pocket, unlocking your phone, and you didn't even realize you had the urge to do it. Your conscious mind is literally off thinking about something else entirely, while your body just runs the script.
And that brings us to the core question of our explainer today, right? If nearly half of all our actions run on absolute autopilot, why do we constantly beat ourselves up for lacking the willpower to succeed? Why do we treat habit change like it's some ultimate test of our moral character? It really makes zero sense when you stop and think about it. We're judging ourselves for decisions that, biologically speaking, aren't even being consciously decided in that moment.
Which leads us to part 1, the myth of willpower.
To understand why self-control really isn't the secret to success here, we have to completely dismantle this whole idea of willpower. Your conscious decision-making, your willpower, lives right behind your forehead in the prefrontal cortex. But here's the catch. This area of the brain is incredibly fragile. It's super sensitive to stress, and it gets completely drained by decision fatigue by the end of the day. Every little choice you make, figuring out what to wear, answering 100 rapid-fire emails, deciding what to make for dinner, it all drains a very limited pool of mental energy. And this is exactly why late-night snacking or scrolling is so insanely hard to resist. By 9 p.m., your prefrontal cortex is just exhausted. It's experiencing what's called ego depletion, and your brain just defaults to whatever requires the absolute least amount of effort. Think of it kind of like learning to drive a car for the first time. Initially, your prefrontal cortex has this incredibly tight, white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel. You're hyper-aware of every mirror, every pedal, every single car around you, and it is exhausting. But eventually, your brain actually hands control over to a much deeper, older structure called the basal ganglia. Now, this is your brain's habit center. It frees up your mental resources and puts you on a highly efficient autopilot. But here's the problem. Once a behavior lives down there in the basal ganglia, relying on your prefrontal cortex, your willpower, to stop it is literally like trying to stop a speeding freight train by squeezing a bicycle brake. You are biologically fighting a losing battle.
All right, let's move on to part 2, inside your habit brain.
So, what's actually happening neurologically when you successfully automate a routine? Well, researchers at MIT, led by Anne Grabiel, discovered something super fascinating. As habits form, the neurons in the striatum, part of your brain, actually stop firing constantly throughout a task. Instead, they do this thing called task bracketing. Basically, they fire a massive, strong signal at the very beginning of the routine to say, start. Then they essentially turn on a biological do not disturb mode. The brain goes incredibly quiet while the habit just runs on autopilot. And finally, those neurons fire again at the very end to say stop. As researcher Anne Grabiel notes, the development of these bracketing patterns serves to physically package up a behavior that the brain considers valuable and worth keeping. Your brain is literally changing its physical neural pathways. It takes these behaviors and insulates the nerve fibers in a protective coating called myelin. That myelin speeds up electrical signals so fast that you don't even have to consciously think about the individual steps anymore. Your brain has brilliantly optimized the routine just to save energy. Now, here's where it gets kind of funny. In a really fascinating study by Wendy Wood, people were trained to automatically choose healthy carrots in a computer game. They built this great, healthy habit. But when the researchers sneakily changed the screen layout and forced the participants to pause and actually use their highly evolved, conscious thinking brain to navigate the new setup, they actually disrupted their own good habit and chose M&Ms instead. It turns out your thinking self isn't always your good self. When we force our prefrontal cortex to get involved, it often completely sabotages us into eating candy instead of vegetables. Crazy, right?
So let's dive into part 3, the power of friction.
Since our thinking self can actually derail us like that, the secret to behavior change isn't willpower at all. It's managing the friction in our environment.
Overcoming bad habits requires dealing with what neuroscientist Andrew Huberman calls limbic friction. Simply put, this is the raw energy it takes to overcome your fatigue, anxiety, or procrastination to actually do a behavior. And guys, this is incredibly tough in our modern world. Just think about our smartphones. They're specifically engineered to be digital slot machines. They use intermittent, unpredictable rewards, like a sudden notification or a fresh social media feed, to spike our dopamine. They are literally designed to completely remove all friction to looking at screens, completely bypassing our willpower. To combat this limbic friction, we actually need to look at culinary chefs. Chefs practice something called mise en place. That means they perfectly arrange all their kitchen ingredients before they ever start cooking, so the actual cooking process is completely seamless and frictionless. And you have to organize your daily physical environment the exact same way. It's all about literal physical movement. If you want to stop scrolling at night, you need to add extreme friction. Put the phone in another room entirely, so you have to physically get out of bed to check it. If you want to run in the morning, remove the friction. Put your running shoes directly in your path to the bathroom. Make the good habit the path of absolute least resistance.
Okay, moving right along to part 4, mastering your daily rhythms.
We can actually take this idea of friction a step further and align our habit building with our natural daily biological rhythms. Your brain chemistry naturally fluctuates in 3 distinct phases throughout the day. In phase 1, which is the first 8 hours after you wake up, your dopamine and adrenaline are at their absolute peak. You are biologically primed for focus. So this is when you should tackle your most difficult, high-friction habits. Then in phase 2, the next 6 to 7 hours, your serotonin levels rise and adrenaline drops, making it the perfect time for lower friction, creative, or relaxing tasks. Finally, phase 3 is strictly for a nervous system reset. Trying to rely on willpower to build a difficult new habit at 10 o'clock at night, that directly fights your biology, and biology always wins. That time is for sleep and recovery. But what if you want to break a deeply ingrained bad habit that's already completely automated? Well, Huberman suggests a really unique biological workaround here. The exact moment you catch yourself performing the bad habit, immediately execute a positive action, something completely unrelated. Imagine mindlessly reaching for a cigarette or catching yourself biting your nails. The moment you realize it, you immediately drop to the floor and do 10 push-ups or jumping jacks. What this does is actively scramble the brain's expected script. It totally disrupts that automated neural sequence in the basal ganglia. By doing this in strict 21-day testing blocks, you force your brain to rewire that automated loop because you just keep interrupting its do not disturb mode with sudden physical exertion. This brings us to part 5, the real habit timeline. All right, we've covered the brain circuitry, the environment, and our biological clocks. Now let's completely destroy a massive pervasive myth about the timeline of behavior change. You have absolutely heard the myth that it takes 21 days to form a habit, right? Please, forget that entirely. That number was literally just an anecdotal guess made by a plastic surgeon named Maxwell Maltz back in the 1960s. And it turns out, judging complex human neurological behavior change based on how long it takes a patient to get used to a nose job isn't exactly rigorous science. Real peer-reviewed research from University College London proves it actually takes an average of 66 days and sometimes up to 254 days for a behavior to reach true automaticity in the brain. It is incredibly empowering to conceptually understand that your habit will literally mature through 5 distinct stages. When you begin a new habit in the initiation phase, the sheer willpower required is utterly exhausting. But I want to assure you right now, that exhausting feeling is biologically temporary. It won't last forever. Eventually, as you push through the friction, you pass into effort and engagement. The basal ganglia starts recognizing the pattern. You'll eventually reach stability and finally, automaticity, a magical point where it actually feels strange and uncomfortable not to do the behavior. I want to slow down here for a second, because this quote from researcher Wendy Wood perfectly summarizes everything we've talked about today. You are not weak. You do not lack character. Your willpower isn't uniquely broken. Your brain simply needs you to change your environment, manage your daily cues, and master your friction, rather than constantly relying on exhausting, endless self-denial. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Instead of making empty promises to yourself that you'll just try harder tomorrow, what specific physical friction are you going to change in your environment right now? What are you going to move, hide, or place right in front of you? Think about it. Structure your surroundings and let your amazing brain's natural neuroplasticity do the rest. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.